What does a $500 dinner taste like? For Arthur Vance, a tech billionaire, it tasted like freedom. He was at Aurelia, New York's most exclusive restaurant, toasting champagne with his mistress, Serafina. He'd told his pregnant wife he was in a late-night board meeting. But in a city of 8 million people, the one person who shouldn't have been there was. Across the dining room, in a quiet booth, his wife Eleanor, 8 months pregnant, just watched him. The explosion was coming. It wasn't a matter of if, but when. The light inside Aurelia was the color of old money, a deep, warm amber that made everyone look like a masterpiece. It was a room designed to flatter egos, and tonight Arthur Vance's ego was soaring. He was 42, but the relentless pace of New York finance and tech had carved him from granite. His suit was a custom Tom Ford, dark as a shadow, and his watch, a Patek Philippe 5711, was a quiet statement of power. Arthur Vance wasn't just rich, he was influential. He was the CEO of Vance Tech Solutions, a man who moved markets with a single memo, and tonight he was a man in love. Or at least, he was in the throes of a powerful infatuation that felt the same. Across the table, Serafina Dubois smiled, and the entire room seemed to dim in comparison. She was 28, the head curator at a rising Chelsea gallery. Where Arthur was stone, she was fire. Her red dress was audacious, her laughter uninhibited. She wasn't just beautiful, she was sharp. She challenged him, debated his market predictions, and quoted Rilke in the same breath. She was everything he thought he'd been missing. "You're staring, Arthur," she murmured, lifting her glass of Dom Perignon. The diamond bracelet on her wrist, a welcome gift from him last month, caught the light. "I'm admiring," he corrected, his voice a low rumble. Us. It feels right, doesn't it?" Serafina's gaze was calculating, yet soft. "It feels inevitable." "But Arthur," she leaned in, the scent of her perfume, Baccarat Rouge 540, cutting through the aroma of truffle and aged beef. "I hate this. The sneaking around, the lies you have to tell." Arthur waved his hand dismissively, a gesture that cleared billion-dollar accounts. "It's temporary, Sarah. I told you. Things with Eleanor, they're complicated." "Complicated," she repeated, the word souring. She's pregnant," he finished, his tone clipped. "Yes, and the timing is unfortunate. But that doesn't change how I feel about you. That doesn't change the fact that Eleanor and we've been roommates for years. The pregnancy was, well, it was a last-ditch effort. One last attempt to see if there was anything left." He was lying. The pregnancy hadn't been an effort. It had been a celebration of Vance Tech hitting the Fortune 500, a celebration of them. But that felt like a lifetime ago. "And was there?" Sarah asked, her dark eyes pinning him. Arthur looked away, signaling the sommelier. "We're celebrating us tonight, Serafina. Let's not talk about home. Let's talk about the Venice Biennale. Let's talk about the condo in Tribeca." He had bought a $10 million investment property 3 weeks ago. It was for her. It was their nest. Serafina smiled, accepting the change of subject. She knew she was winning. He had told her he and Eleanor were separated, living in different wings of their vast Park Avenue penthouse, and that the divorce was already in motion, just waiting for a delicate time after the baby was born. She believed him. Why wouldn't she? He was Arthur Vance. He didn't just break rules, he rewrote them. "To us, then," she said, clinking her glass against his. The restaurant was a hushed symphony of clinking silver and whispered conversations. They were in the main dining room, visible, a power couple in the making. Arthur liked the visibility. It was part of the thrill. He was a man who took what he wanted, and he wanted the world to see him with Serafina. He felt his phone vibrate in his pocket. A text. He ignored it. It was probably Eleanor, checking in. "The lie I told tonight," he said, taking Syrah's hand, "was that I was in a late-night emergency board meeting." "Oh." She traced the veins on his hand with a painted nail. "And what's the emergency?" "You," he said, and kissed her fingers. "You're the emergency. The beautiful, wonderful emergency I never saw coming." He felt the phone vibrate again. Buzz, 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 buzz. Insistent. Annoyed, he pulled it out. It was his wife. Text from Eleanor. "Just checking in. Hope the meeting is going well. Love you." He sighed. The guilt was a dull, annoying ache, like a bad knee. He typed back. "Going long. Don't wait up. Love you too." He put the phone down, face down on the table. He looked back at Serafina, the perfect smile returning to his face. Now, where were we? Across the restaurant, hidden in the shadows of a deep alcove, Eleanor Vance watched him put the phone down. She watched him smile at the woman in the red dress. She had seen him read her text. She had just read his reply, and the glass of water in her hand began to tremble. Eleanor Vance had not wanted to come to Aurelia. At 8 months pregnant, everything was a struggle. Her ankles were swollen, her back was a constant fire, and her baby, a boy, they knew it was a boy, was currently using her ribs as a kickboxing bag. She was tired. She was always tired. But her younger sister Chloe had been insistent. "No, Elle, absolutely not," Chloe had said, barging into the penthouse that afternoon. "You are not sitting in this apartment again just because Arthur has another emergency meeting. He's been in meetings every night for a month. You look pale. You're going out. I'm taking you out." "Chloe, I don't fit into anything," Eleanor had protested, gesturing to her swollen body, draped in a grey cashmere lounge set. "Nonsense. You fit into that black maternity wrap dress. The one from, what's that obscenely expensive place? Hatch. You look like a goddess in it. We are going to Aurelia. I pulled a string. I called in that favor from my old boss. We are going to eat $400 worth of non-alcoholic cocktails and perfectly cooked vegetables." The reservation had been for her and Arthur. A baby moon dinner. The last romantic night out before their world was consumed by diapers and 3 a.m. feedings. Arthur had cancelled it that morning, citing the unavoidable Vance Tech board crisis. Eleanor hadn't had the heart to cancel the reservation, so she'd let Chloe drag her there. Their booth was perfect. Tucked away in a corner, it was dark, private, and offered a panoramic view of the dining room. It was the celebrity booth, the one reserved for people who wanted to see, but not be seen. "See? Isn't this better?" Chloe said, her face bright. Chloe was the opposite of Eleanor. Where Eleanor was quiet, measured elegance, Chloe was vibrant, chaotic, and fiercely loyal. "It is," Eleanor admitted, sipping a complex mocktail of blood orange and spiced ginger. "It's nice, thank you, Chloe." "Okay, so, how are you?" Chloe asked, her tone shifting, becoming serious. "And I don't mean, how's the baby? I mean, how are you? With him?" Eleanor hesitated. How was she? She was worried. Arthur was distant. He was working harder than ever, true. But this felt different. He was detached, his eyes glancing at his phone every few seconds, a new password on his laptop. When he did touch her, it felt programmatic, a perfunctory hand on her belly. "He's just stressed," Eleanor said, the word sounding hollow even to her. "The new launch, the board, it's a lot. He's a billionaire, Elle. A lot is his default setting. This is this is different. He missed your last OB/GYN appointment. He had a call with Tokyo. He always has a call with Tokyo, Chloe snapped, then lowered her voice. I'm sorry, I don't like how he's treating you. You're carrying his son. You're the one who was with him when Vance Tech was just 3 guys in a garage. You coded half the original platform. You're not just some wife, Eleanor. You're his partner. I know, Eleanor said, quietly. It'll be better after the baby comes. It has to be. It was then, in that lull of conversation, that she saw him. He wasn't at the door. He was walking through the center of the restaurant, following the maître d', Jean-Pierre. Arthur, looking impossibly handsome, smiling, his hand resting on the small of a woman's back. A woman in a startlingly beautiful red dress. A woman who was not her. Eleanor's breath caught in her throat. It felt like a physical blow. The air punched out of her lungs. Elle, what's wrong? You're white as a sheet. Chloe turned, following her sister's gaze. Oh my God. Eleanor couldn't hear her. She was watching, as if through a long tunnel. She watched Jean-Pierre, the maître d', who had known her and Arthur for a decade, seat them at a prime table. A table in the center, a be-seen table. She watched Arthur pull out the chair for the woman. She watched the woman laugh, a bright, musical sound that carried across the room. Eleanor, we're leaving. Right now, Chloe said, her voice a low, furious hiss. She was already grabbing her purse. No. The word was so quiet, Chloe barely heard it. What? Elle, don't do this to yourself. We are leaving. No, Eleanor said again, her voice firmer. Her eyes were locked on the couple. Get your phone. What? To call him? To curse him out? No, to record. Eleanor, that's insane. He's my husband, Chloe. This is my life. He's sitting 50 feet away with her, while his pregnant wife is in the same room. I want to see. I need to see what this is. Her heart was hammering, a frantic bird against her ribs. The baby gave a hard, painful kick, as if sensing her distress. She flinched, placing a hand on her stomach. She watched Arthur order. He was gesturing to the wine list, talking to the sommelier. He ordered the 2010 Chateau Margaux, their wine, the wine they'd had on their honeymoon. A single hot tear escaped and rolled down her cheek. She didn't wipe it away. Okay, Chloe said, her voice breaking with a rage Eleanor couldn't yet feel. Okay, we'll stay. But the second this is too much, we're gone. Eleanor just nodded, her gaze fixed. She watched as her husband, the father of her unborn child, lifted a glass of champagne to toast the woman who was destroying her world. It was at that precise moment that Eleanor, on a cruel, masochistic impulse, decided to text him. Just checking in. Hope the meeting is going well. Love you. She watched in real time as his phone vibrated on the table. She watched him pick it up. She watched his brow furrow for just a second, and then she watched him type. A moment later, her own phone illuminated. Going long. Don't wait up. Love you too. The lie was so blatant, so cold, so effortless, it shattered something deep inside her. The trembling in her hand wasn't sadness anymore. It was an earthquake. The next 30 minutes were a special kind of torture, a slow-motion dissection of her marriage. Eleanor didn't eat. The exquisite 90-a-plate diver scallops sat untouched, growing cold. Chloe didn't eat either. She just vibrated with a silent, protective fury, her phone resting on her lap, occasionally and discreetly, lifting it to capture a moment. Eleanor watched. She had built a career on code, on seeing patterns in chaos. She was seeing the pattern now. She watched the way Arthur leaned in, not just to hear Serafina, but to inhale her. She saw the familiar crinkle by his eyes, the one he used to save for her when she said something clever. He was using it for this woman. She watched Serafina. The woman was bold. She touched his arm. She laughed, throwing her head back. She was a performance, and Arthur was her rapt audience. "Who is she?" Eleanor whispered, the question tasting like ash. "I don't know," Chloe said, her thumbs flying across her phone screen under the table. "But I'm finding out. Dark hair, red dress, at Aurelia with Arthur Vance. The gossip columns live for this." "Don't," Eleanor said, a flash of her old self, the private, dignified woman, surfacing. "Don't send it to anyone. This is evidence, not entertainment." The word evidence hung in the air. It was a legal term, a divorce term. The stress was becoming physical. A sharp, gripping pain radiated from her lower back and wrapped around her belly. A Braxton Hicks contraction. She'd been having them for weeks, but this one was different. This one had teeth. She gasped, clutching her stomach. "Elle, are you okay? Is it the baby?" Chloe's panic was immediate. It's just a contraction," Eleanor breathed, focusing on the linen tablecloth. "It'll pass. It's just the stress." "That's it. We're leaving." Chloe threw her napkin on the table. "No, I'm not running away. I'm not going to be chased out of a restaurant by my husband's mistress." The word was bitter, ugly. Eleanor took a deep breath, riding the wave of the contraction until it subsided. The pain in her abdomen was replaced by a cold, clarifying anger. "I'm going to the restroom," she said, her voice steady. "Elle, no, don't walk by them, please." "The restroom is on the way to the exit, and it just so happens," Eleanor said, pushing herself up from the booth, a slow, difficult, pregnant movement, "that I have to walk right past their table." "What are you going to do?" "I don't know," Eleanor said honestly. But she did know one thing. He's not going to sit there, drinking my wine, lying to my face, and not know I saw. She stood, one hand on her belly, the other on the back of the booth, steadying herself. She was the picture of late-stage pregnancy, beautiful, burdened, and profoundly female. She began to walk. It was the longest 50 feet of her life. The restaurant's plush carpet seemed to suck at her heels. Every eye felt like it was on her, though no one was looking. Her focus was singular. Table 12. Arthur had his back to her. Serafina was facing him, but her head was tilted down, looking at the menu. 10 feet. She could smell Serafina's perfume. It was sweet and overpowering. 5 feet. Arthur was laughing, a deep, genuine laugh that Eleanor hadn't heard in months. 2 feet. She was at the edge of their table. Serafina looked up, her eyes flicking from the menu to the large, pregnant woman standing over them. Her smile faded, replaced by polite confusion. "Can I help you?" Serafina asked, her tone implying Eleanor was a lost tourist. Arthur's laughter died in his throat. He sensed the shift in Serafina's gaze. He felt the shadow fall over the table. "Arthur," Eleanor said. His name was not a question. It was a verdict. Arthur Vance froze. The blood drained from his face, leaving a sickly grey pallor under his expensive tan. He didn't turn. He just stopped. It was the absolute stillness of a prey animal that knows the predator is right behind it. Slowly, as if the air had turned to cement, he turned his head. His eyes met hers. In that 1 second, Eleanor saw it all. Not just guilt, not just shock. She saw annoyance. He was annoyed that his perfect, curated evening had been interrupted. That was the moment her heart truly broke. "Eleanor," he breathed, his voice a strangled whisper. Serafina's head snapped between them, her brow furrowed. "Arthur?" Who is this?" Eleanor never broke eye contact with her husband. She didn't have to say a word. Her presence, her swollen belly, her cold, devastated eyes said everything. You're not supposed to be here," Arthur stammered, an absurd, idiotic thing to say. "Clearly," Eleanor replied, her voice shaking but clear. "You, on the other hand, are exactly where you're supposed to be, aren't you? At your emergency board meeting." "Oh my God," Serafina whispered, the pieces clicking into place. She looked at Eleanor's stomach, then at Arthur's terrified face. "Board meeting?" Eleanor held his gaze for one more agonizing second. She let him see the ruin he had caused. Then, with a dignity she didn't know she possessed, she turned and continued her slow, deliberate walk toward the restrooms, leaving a bomb of silence in her wake. Arthur was on his feet. "Eleanor, wait! Wait!" He lunged after her, grabbing his suit jacket. "Arthur!" Serafina cried out, also standing. "Arthur, what is going on?" But he was already gone, pushing past a waiter, chasing his wife's shadow down the hall. Serafina was left alone at the table, the entire dining room now staring at her. The woman in the red dress, the center of the storm. Humiliated and furious, she grabbed her purse and ran after him. The confrontation was about to move from public humiliation to private warfare. The hallway to the restrooms at Aurelia was paneled in dark mahogany and lined with antique mirrors, designed to make the space feel infinite. It was here, in this corridor of endless reflections, that the facade of Arthur Vance's life came crashing down. Eleanor didn't make it to the ladies' room. Another contraction, sharper this time, seized her. She cried out, a sound of pure pain, and leaned against the wall, one hand splayed against the cool wood, the other cradling her belly. "Eleanor!" Arthur rounded the corner, his face a mask of panic. This was not a business deal he could control. This was chaos. "Don't," she gasped, holding up a hand. "Don't you touch me. Elle, please, let me explain. It's not what it looks like." Eleanor let out a sound that was halfway between a laugh and a sob. "Not what it looks like. You're sitting there, drinking our wine with that child. Her name is Serafina, and she has nothing to do with this." "She has everything to do with this," Eleanor shot back, her voice rising. "You lied to me. You sat there, and you lied to me." "Keep your voice down," he hissed, grabbing her arm. "People can hear." "Get your hands off of me," she shrieked, yanking her arm away. The movement sent a jolt of pain through her. "You care about that? You care about what they think? You just destroyed our family in front of a room full of strangers, and you're worried about your reputation." "Arthur, what the hell is going on?" Serafina. She had followed them. She stood at the end of the hall, her arms crossed, her face a thundercloud of rage and confusion. Arthur was trapped, caught between his wife and his mistress, a grotesque tableau reflected in a dozen mirrors. "Sarah, please," he said, turning to her, his voice pleading. "Go back to the table. This is a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding?" Serafina stalked toward them. "She just called you her husband. She's pregnant. You told me. You told me you were separated. You told me the divorce was almost final." Eleanor's head snapped toward Arthur. The blood drained from her face. "You... what? You told her... what?" Arthur's eyes darted between the two women. The lie was exposed, and it had wounded them both. "He told me you were living in separate wings," Serafina continued, her voice rising, high and sharp. "He told me the baby was... that it was complicated, from before you... separated. He told me you were done." The ultimate betrayal. It wasn't just an affair, it was a plan. He was replacing her. He lied," Eleanor said, looking at Serafina, a moment of strange, horrific solidarity passing between them. He lied to you too. Arthur, Serafina's voice was now shaking. Is she lying? Sarah, it's complicated. Don't you dare say that word again, Serafina screamed. You lied to me. You used me. You made me, the other woman. Serafina, darling, calm down. Don't darling me. She's right, Eleanor said, her voice dropping to a deadly calm. The pain in her belly was a constant throbbing fire now. You need to stop talking, Arthur. You need to answer her. Did you lie to her? Arthur looked at his wife, at the mother of his child, her face pale with pain and betrayal. He looked at his mistress, vibrant and furious, her reputation in tatters. He, Arthur Vance, the master of the universe, had lost control. Yes, he finally admitted, the word torn from him. I lied. We're not separated. Not officially. Serafina recoiled as if he had slapped her. You're still with her. You've been... God, I feel sick. Elle, please, Arthur said, turning back to his wife, sensing she was the greater, more immediate threat. Let's go home. We can talk about this. We can fix this. Fix this? Eleanor's laugh was brittle. You think you can fix this? Like you fix a bad quarter? You just move the numbers around, fire a few VPs, and it's all better? That's not what I meant. I know exactly what you meant, she said, pushing herself off the wall. You're a plumber, Arthur. You just fix leaks. But this isn't a leak. This is a flood. And we're all drowning. It was at that moment that Chloe, having paid the bill with a slam of her credit card, burst into the hallway. I knew it! She yelled, seeing the scene. She saw Serafina, she saw Arthur, and she saw her sister, ashen-faced and clutching her stomach. You bastard! Look at her! Look what you've done! Chloe, stay out of this, Arthur commanded. I will not! That is my sister! Chloe, it hurts, Eleanor whimpered, her anger suddenly collapsing. She slumped against the wall. The pain, it's not stopping. What? What pain? Arthur's panic returned. The baby, Chloe said, rushing to her sister's side. She's been having contractions for 20 minutes, you selfish pig. She's in labor. No, it's too early, Arthur stammered. It's not due for 6 weeks. Tell that to the baby, Chloe screamed. Someone call 911. My sister is in labor. Her voice echoed out into the restaurant. The hushed symphony stopped. A glass smashed. Diners were on their feet, peering into the hallway. And then, the worst part. The small, red recording lights. In a restaurant full of the rich and powerful, everyone had a smartphone, and they were all pointed directly at the billionaire, his pregnant wife, and his crying mistress. The scene was being captured from a dozen angles. Oh God, Arthur whispered, seeing the phones. He wasn't looking at his wife. He was looking at his life, his company, his stock price, imploding in real time. Arthur, Serafina whispered, utterly broken. Everyone is watching. Elle, Arthur said, finally moving. Elle, we have to go. Let me help you. He reached for Eleanor. Don't touch me, she screamed, a raw, primal sound. She looked at him, her eyes filled with a hatred so pure it stunned him. You stay away from me. You stay away from my baby. The words hit him harder than any fist. The maitre d' Jean-Pierre was there, his face ashen. Sir, madam, the ambulance is on its way. Please let us help you to the lounge. Just get him away from me, Eleanor sobbed, clinging to Chloe. Arthur stood alone in the Hall of Mirrors, his hands raised in a useless gesture of surrender. He was reflected 1,000 times, a cheater, a liar, a fool. He had wanted the world to see him tonight. And now it did. The ride to Lenox Hill Hospital was a blur of sirens and fluorescent lights. Eleanor was strapped to a gurney, her breaths coming in short, pained gasps. Chloe sat beside her, holding her hand, murmuring reassurances. Arthur had tried to get in the ambulance. "I'm her husband," he'd insisted to the paramedic. Chloe had fixed the man with a look of pure ice. "He's the reason she's in this state. You let him in, and her stress levels will go through the roof. Do you want to be responsible for that?" The paramedic had looked from Chloe's furious face to Arthur's expensive, useless suit and made his decision. "Sir, I need you to follow in your own car. Family only." Arthur had been left on the curb, surrounded by a sea of flashing iPhones as the ambulance wailed into the night. He arrived at the hospital 10 minutes later, his driver having broken every speed limit. He found the maternity ward, a place of soft pinks and blues that felt garish and offensive. He found Eleanor's room. Chloe was standing guard outside the door like a sentinel. "You can't go in," she said. "She is my wife, Chloe. I am the father of that child." "And you're the man who put them both at risk," she countered, her voice dangerously low. "The doctor is with her. They're trying to stop the labor. The last thing she needs is to see your face." Is the baby okay?" For the first time that night, the bravado was gone. He just looked small. "They don't know yet. They've given her a shot of terbutaline. They're trying to calm her uterus. Stress-induced preterm labor is what the doctor called it." "Your stress?" Arthur leaned his head against the wall, the antiseptic smell, the quiet beeping of monitors. It was 1,000,000 miles from Aurelia. "Chloe, I messed up. I know that. I don't know what I was thinking." "No," Chloe said, shaking her head. "You knew exactly what you were thinking. You were thinking you were Arthur Vance, and the rules don't apply to you. You thought you could have your perfect wife, your perfect son, and your perfect hobby." She spat the word. "On the side. You just got sloppy. You got caught." Before he could answer, the doctor, a calm, grey-haired woman named Dr. Aris, came out of the room. "Mr. Vance?" she asked. "Yes." "How is she? How's the baby?" "The contractions are slowing," Dr. Aris said, her face unreadable. "The medication seems to be working. We've managed to stop active labor for now, but she's not out of the woods. She's dilated 2 centimeters. She must be on complete bed rest until she's full term." "Bed rest? At home?" Arthur asked, relief washing over him. "No, here, in the hospital. Any spike in blood pressure, any new stress. It could trigger labor again. And at 34 weeks, that's a risk we can't take. The baby's lungs aren't fully developed. He'd be in the NICU for weeks." The weight of it finally landed. Weeks. NICU. "I want to see her," he said. Dr. Aris looked at Chloe, who gave a tiny, imperceptible shake of her head. "Mr. Vance, your wife is stable, but she is extremely agitated. She's requested that only her sister be present. She can't do that. I'm her husband." "Right now, sir," Dr. Aris said, her voice firm. "I'm not her marriage counselor. I'm her doctor. And my patient's health, and the health of her baby, is my only priority. What she needs is 0 stress. Right now, you are her primary stressor. So no, you can't see her. Not until she asks for you." Dr. Aris nodded politely and walked away. Arthur was left in the hallway with his sister-in-law. "You heard the woman," Chloe said, her arms crossed. "Go." "I'm not leaving," he said, stubbornness returning. "I'll sleep in the waiting room. I'm staying." "Fine, suffer. I don't care. But you're not getting in that room." Chloe turned and slipped back inside, the door sighing shut behind her. Arthur sank onto a hard plastic chair in the waiting lounge. The adrenaline was gone, replaced by a cold, hollow dread. He pulled out his phone. It was 11:30 p.m. He had 47 missed calls, 12 from his head of PR, 10 from his company's general counsel, 5 from his mother, and 20 from Serafina. He also had over 100 text messages. He opened one from his PR head, David. Text: Arthur, call me. A video from Aurelia is on Twitter. It's got 500k views. The Gilded NY and Page 6 have already picked it up. We are in catastrophic failure mode. Call me. He opened his web browser. The headline from The Gilded NY was brutal. Live from Aurelia. Tech titan Arthur Vance caught with mystery woman. Pregnant wife Eleanor Vance rushed to hospital. The video was grainy, shot from across the room. But it was unmistakable. It showed Eleanor standing by the table. It showed Serafina's shocked face. It showed him, frozen. The audio was muffled, but you could hear a woman's voice. Chloe's scream, "My sister is in labor!" He closed his eyes. This was bad. This was a nightmare. He needed to fix it. He started to dial his PR head, but a new text message popped up. From Serafina. Text: You animal. You utter, complete animal. You didn't just lie to me. You humiliated me. You used me as a prop in your sick game. You think I'm just some girl you can buy with a bracelet and a condo? You're wrong. You have no idea what you just started. He stared at the text. You have no idea what you just started. A chill ran down his spine that had nothing to do with the hospital's air conditioning. He'd been worried about his wife. He'd been worried about his company. He had forgotten about the woman he'd left standing alone in the middle of that restaurant. And a woman scorned, he realized, was a very different kind of problem. A problem that lawyers and PR couldn't always fix. Serafina Dubois did not go home. She went to the Tribeca condo Arthur had bought for her, their nest, and she began to dismantle her life, or rather, his. She had stumbled out of Aurelia 10 minutes after the ambulance left, her face a mask of tears and running mascara, the jeers and stares of the other patrons following her out the door. The video of her, looking like a pathetic, jilted mistress, was already circulating before her Uber had even crossed 23rd Street. Her phone was a wildfire of notifications. Friends, family, gallery colleagues, art world rivals. Is that you? OMG, Sarah, what happened? I can't believe you'd do that to another woman. She was 28 years old, ambitious and smart. She had spent 5 years building a sterling reputation in the snobbish, backbiting New York art scene. Arthur Vance had just incinerated it in 2 hours. She wasn't just a mistress. He had made her a fool. He hadn't just lied about his wife. He had lied to her. He had told her Eleanor was cold, emotionally distant, that they were only together for the company until the baby was born. He swore the pregnancy was an accident that happened after they had already decided to split. The woman in that hallway, pale, terrified, and in pain, was not the cold fish Arthur had described. She was a victim, and that made Serafina an accomplice. No, Serafina said to the empty $10 million living room. I am not the villain in his story. She sat on the white Italian sofa he'd had delivered last week. She had 2 choices. She could disappear, change her name, and move to London. Or she could fight. She could reclaim the narrative. She opened her laptop. Arthur wasn't just a charismatic liar. He was a meticulous one. He'd kept his Sarah life and his Eleanor life completely separate. But he had made one fatal mistake. He had put things in writing. A month ago, when Serafina had threatened to leave him, to stop being his dirty secret, he had sent her an email from his private account, but an email nonetheless. It was a long, flowery, desperate plea. She found it in minutes. From Avance, privateofmail.com, to zeradigmail.com. Subject, you are everything, Sarah, my love. Don't go. You are the only thing that's real in my life. I am trapped. Yes, the baby is coming. I will do my duty. I will be there for the birth. I will see my name on the birth certificate. But my life with Eleanor is a business arrangement. It has been for years. The second the Vance heir is secure, and the stock is stable post-launch, I am done. I am leaving her, I promise you. The future is not her and the baby. The future is you and me. Don't let me go back to that prison. I love you. As she read it again, and this time the words business arrangement, Vance heir, and prison stood out like blood on snow. He had played her. He had played both of them. She opened a new email. She typed in an address she knew from her gallery work, an address that struck fear into the hearts of every C-suite executive in Manhattan. To tipsythegildedknee.com. Subject, the full story. Arthur Vance. She attached the email. She attached a selfie he had sent her from his private jet 2 weeks ago. She attached a receipt for the diamond bracelet, which he had foolishly sent to her apartment. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. To whom it may concern, the woman in the red dress has a name. It's Seraphina Dubois. And I was not with Arthur Vance. I was lied to by Arthur Vance. He told me he was separated. He told me his marriage was over. He fed me a string of calculated lies to get me into his bed and to make me believe in a future that was a complete fantasy. He preyed on me. But I am not his only victim. His wife is the biggest one. See attached. He calls his marriage a prison. He calls his unborn child the Vance heir and a business arrangement. He is not a titan. He is a monster, and everyone should know who he really is. She hit send. She felt a cold, terrible, liberating calm. It was done. Then she poured herself a very large glass of the $500 whiskey he kept stocked in her bar. She sat and she waited for the firestorm. It took exactly 15 minutes. At 1:05 a.m., the Gilded Moy published its second story of the night. Exclusive. The Aurelia Mistress speaks. He lied to us both. Leaked emails reveal Arthur Vance's brutal plan to leave wife after Vance heir is born. The article was explosive. It had the email. It had the receipts. It had her statement. Seraphina Dubois was no longer the villain. She was the whistleblower. And Arthur Vance. Arthur Vance was about to find out what catastrophic failure really meant. Arthur Vance did not sleep. He sat on the hard plastic chair, his Tom Ford suit rumpled, his tie ripped off and stuffed in his pocket. He'd spent the night in a frantic, losing battle on his phone. He had been on the line with his legal team, his PR team, and his board of directors, all at once. Kill the story. He had raged at David, his PR head, at 1:10 a.m., just after the Gilded NY story dropped. Kill it. Arthur, it's not a story, it's a nuclear bomb, David had yelled back. She gave them emails. Vance heir. Business arrangement. The markets in Frankfurt and Tokyo are already reacting. Vance Tech is down 9% in pre-market trading. This isn't a sex scandal, Arthur. You just told the world your family is a business arrangement. It questions your ethics. It questions your stability. The board is invoking the morality clause. They're calling an emergency meeting for 9 a.m. to discuss your removal as CEO. They can't. They can. And they will. You have to make a statement. You have to, I don't know, fix this with your wife. Arthur had hung up and stared at the door to Eleanor's room. Fix it. He had to fix it. He waited until 6 a.m., when the sky was a bruised purple. A nurse told him Chloe had gone home to shower and change. This was his chance. He walked to the door. He didn't knock. He just entered. The room was dark, save for the glow of the fetal heart monitor. Thump, 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 thump. The sound was fast, steady, alive. Eleanor was asleep, but it was a restless, troubled sleep. She looked pale, her face etched with strain, even in unconsciousness. An IV was taped to the back of her hand. He moved to the bedside, his heart a cold knot in his chest. This was his wife, the woman he'd built an empire with, the woman he had loved, truly loved, before. Before what? Before he got bored? Before he got arrogant? He reached out a trembling hand and lightly touched her arm. Her eyes snapped open. The second she saw him, her face flooded with fear. Then a profound, cold anger. She yanked her arm away. "Get out!" she whispered, her voice raw. "Elle, please, just listen to me. I am so sorry. I don't know what to say." "Then don't say anything. Just get out." She tried to sit up, but the monitors and her own body betrayed her. She winced, falling back against the pillows. Don't move," he said, lunging forward. "You're not supposed to, the doctor said I'm not supposed to be under stress," she fired back, her voice gaining strength. "And you walking in here is the most stressful thing that could possibly happen. So get out. Eleanor, our lives are on fire. The company, the board, everything is falling apart. That, Serafina. She leaked emails." Eleanor just stared at him. "Emails? What emails?" I said some things, stupid things, about you and the baby, about leaving." Eleanor's face, which he thought couldn't get any paler, went chalk white. You wrote it down." "Elle, I was just telling her what she wanted to hear. It didn't mean anything. I love you. I love this baby." "Stop," she said. The word was flat. Dead. "What?" "Stop. Lying. I've been lying here since 11 p.m., listening to our son's heartbeat, and I've been thinking. I've been thinking about the last 6 months, the late meetings, the business trips, the new password on your phone, the way you stopped touching me unless it was for a photo. You haven't loved me for a very long time, Arthur." "That's not true. I do." "No," she said, and her voice was so final it chilled him to the bone. "You love the idea of me. You love the idea of the perfect family, the brilliant, stable wife, the Vance heir. It's all part of the brand, and that woman, she was your escape. But you didn't just lie to me, Arthur. You lied to her. You lied to everyone." She reached for her phone on the bedside table. Her hand was shaking. What are you doing?" he asked, a new panic rising. Are you calling a lawyer?" "Elle, we can't. We can't do that. A divorce right now. It would wipe out the company. You'd be destroying your own future." Eleanor looked at him, and for the first time she smiled. It was a terrifying, humorless expression. "My future? You think my future is tied to you?" She found the number she was looking for. "Who are you calling?" he demanded. "The Gilded NY," she said. His blood turned to ice. "What? No, Eleanor, no, don't! Give me the phone!" He lunged for it, but she was faster, pulling it away. "Get away from me!" she shrieked. A nurse burst into the room. "Mr. Vance, you need to leave, now. Her blood pressure is spiking." She's calling the press," Arthur yelled, frantic. "Sir, I'm calling security," the nurse said, hitting a red button on the wall. Eleanor's finger hovered over the call button. She looked at her husband, this desperate, pathetic shell of a man. "You're right," she said quietly. "I'm not calling them." Arthur paused, breathing heavily. "I'm calling my lawyer," she continued. And then I'm calling your head of PR, and I'm going to make a statement. But it's not going to be the one you want. Eleanor, what are you going to do? She met his gaze. The woman he knew, the soft, supportive, brilliant partner, was gone. In her place was a queen he had betrayed, who was now holding the executioner's axe. You told the world I was a business arrangement, she said, her voice dripping with ice. You told the world our child was just a Vance heir. You're about to find out what a bad business partner I can be. You're not the only one who built that company, Arthur. I wrote the original lines of code, and my name is on the founding charter. What? What does that mean? It means you just started a war with the one person who knows all your secrets. Now get out of my room. You can read my statement with the rest of the world. 2 large security guards appeared at the door. Mr. Vance, you need to come with us. Arthur looked at his wife, at the fetal monitor, at the guards. He had lost. He had lost everything. He turned and let them escort him from the room. Arthur was relegated to the hospital's cafe, a sterile room that smelled of burnt coffee and floor wax. He sat at a small table, his phone buzzing incessantly. The 9 a.m. board meeting was happening without him. He was officially locked out. At 9:15 a.m. his phone lit up with a Google alert for Vance Tech. It wasn't a press release from the company. It was an exclusive in Forbes. Eleanor Vance, co-founder of Vance Tech, issues statement from hospital. I am focused on my son. My partnership with Mr. Vance is under review. His blood ran cold. Co-founder. Partnership. She hadn't used those words in years. He read the statement. It was a masterpiece of corporate and personal annihilation, drafted by a lawyer who clearly earned their astronomical fees. I am, as has been reported, in the hospital under medical supervision, following a shock that induced preterm labor. My priority is, and will remain, the health and safety of my unborn son. She'd used son. She was claiming him. The events at Aurelia were as much a shock to me as they were to the world. The statements and emails allegedly written by my husband, Arthur Vance, are deeply disturbing. They do not reflect my values, nor do they reflect the values upon which we built Vance Tech Solutions. I am not a business arrangement. I am a co-founder and a 20% equity partner in this company, a fact that seems to have been forgotten. The Vance heir, as my child was so callously described, is not a bargaining chip. He is my son. While my medical situation requires me to be on bed rest, I am not incapacitated. I am in full communication with my legal team and my financial advisors. Effective immediately, I will be evaluating all options regarding my personal and professional partnership with Mr. Vance to ensure the protection of my child, my assets, and the future of the company I helped build from the ground up. Eleanor Harris Vance. Arthur dropped his phone on the table. 20%. It was true. In the beginning, she had taken equity in lieu of a salary. He'd always managed it for her, rolled it into their joint assets. He'd assumed she forgot. He'd assumed she was just his wife. But she wasn't. She was Eleanor Harris Vance. She had just drawn a line in the sand. She wasn't the wife of Vance Tech. She was the co-founder. This wasn't a divorce. It was a hostile takeover. The 9 a.m. board meeting, he realized, wasn't about firing him. It was about choosing a side. His phone rang. It was the board's chairman, Marcus Thorne. Arthur, Marcus said, his voice void of all warmth. Marcus, listen, I can explain. Don't. We've read Mrs. Vance's statement. We've also seen the pre-market numbers. We're down 22%. The stockholders are in a panic. It's a blip, Marcus, a personal matter. It was a personal matter, Arthur. Until your mistress leaked emails that call your character into question, and your wife, who, I'll remind you, holds the second largest individual stake in this company, just announced your partnership is under review. This is now a material crisis. So what's the call, Marcus? A leave of absence? A fine? There was a long pause. The board has voted, unanimously. You are suspended as CEO and chairman, effective immediately, pending a full internal investigation. We are releasing a statement that the board stands with our co-founder, Eleanor Vance, and her family. We're appointing an interim CEO. You're siding with her? Arthur was incredulous. She's stable. She's smart. And right now, she's the only one who looks like an adult. She just saved this company, Arthur. By cutting you out, the statement is already live. Arthur hung up the phone. He was numb. In 24 hours, he had lost his mistress, his wife, his son, and his company. He was just a man in a rumpled suit, alone in a hospital cafe. 1 week later, Eleanor Vance was not in the hospital. She was, however, on mandated bed rest. But her bed was the command center of her Park Avenue penthouse. The apartment had been swept by her new security team. Arthur's belongings were in storage. The locks were changed. She was propped up on a mountain of pillows, a laptop on her knees, a fetal monitor strapped to her belly, and a phone permanently attached to her ear. Surrounding her were not nurses, but her legal team. "The bylaws are clear," she said, her voice strong. "The morality clause was breached. His suspension holds, but suspension isn't enough. I want the vote of no confidence." Eleanor, her lawyer, a shark named Harrison, said, "He still has 30% of the voting stock. We have your 20, and the board's 15. We're still short. We need to flip a major shareholder." "Then get me one," she said. The baby kicked. She smiled, rubbing her stomach. He was a fighter, just like his mother. The past week had been a blur. She had stabilized. The baby was healthy, and the doctors agreed to let her go home under 24/7 private medical care. Serafina Dubois had, astonishingly, sent flowers. Not to her, but to the hospital, for the maternity ward. The card simply said, "From one victim to another. I'm sorry." Serafina had also, Eleanor's lawyers noted, retained a very aggressive attorney and was suing Arthur personally for fraud and emotional distress. She was going after his non-corporate assets. Arthur, meanwhile, was in exile. He was staying at his Hamptons estate, issuing apologies through his new, separate PR team. They were weak. Pathetic. He'd tried to see her. He'd tried to call. She'd blocked him on all channels. The war was now being fought on two fronts. Serafina was attacking his personal wealth. Eleanor was attacking his power. A call came through on the secure line. "Mrs. Vance," said her lawyer. "We've got a bite, a potential ally. He's unconventional, but he wants to meet." "Who?" "Daniel Chen, CEO of Novacor." Eleanor's eyes widened. Daniel Chen was Arthur's biggest rival, a Silicon Valley predator who had been trying to get a foothold in Vance Tech for years. He wants to help me. He sees an opportunity," Harrison said. "He wants to buy out a portion of Arthur's shares. He'll pay a premium. It would gut Arthur, leave him with nothing but cash. But it would give Chen 15% of the company. Combined with your 20, you would be the new center of power. You and Chen. The enemy of my enemy principle." "He wants to meet?" Eleanor asked. "I can't leave this bed." "He knows he's in his car. He'll be here in 20 minutes. "Let him come," Eleanor said. She closed her laptop. The game had changed. Arthur thought he was a king, but a king is nothing without his queen, and she had just picked up her own crown. when Arthur Vance finally managed to breach security by serving her with legal papers via a process server, he found her. He found her in the living room, in her silk pajamas, looking radiant, flanked by her lawyer, and sitting across from her, drinking her coffee, was Daniel Chen, his mortal enemy. They were laughing. Arthur stood in the doorway, a piece of paper in his hand, a ghost at his own feast. Eleanor looked up. Her smile didn't falter. "Arthur, perfect timing," she said, her voice as smooth as velvet. "Mr. Chen and I were just discussing the future of Vance Tech. We've decided it needs a new vision, a new moral center." She placed a hand on her belly. "You called our son the Vance heir. You were right. He is. And I'm just making sure he has something to inherit." Arthur looked at his rival, at his wife, at the empire he'd built crumbling around him. He hadn't just been caught. He had been checkmated. In the end, it wasn't the lie that destroyed Arthur Vance. It was who he lied to. He underestimated the two women he betrayed. He saw his mistress, Serafina, as a beautiful distraction, not a strategic fighter who would burn his reputation to the ground. And he saw his wife, Eleanor, as a quiet partner, not the co-founder who knew his business better than he knew himself. Arthur lost his company, his reputation, and his family, all for a $500 dinner. The story isn't just about cheating, it's about what happens when arrogance meets intelligence. Eleanor and Serafina, two women he tried to play against each other, became the twin forces that dismantled his entire world. What did you think of Eleanor's final move? Was it brilliant or as cold as his? Let me know in the comments. This story is a wild ride, and if you want more dramas like this, don't forget to like, share this video with someone who loves a good story, and please subscribe to the channel. We're just getting started.